So first of all, thank you everyone. And Bill, thank you also for collaborating. I wanted to actually start with this because with this slide, because I wanted to show you that this is a collaboration of our two communities, and collaboration is so important. There's no competition in our ADHD world. I saw in the chat how many of you are from different places, not just in the United States, but globally as well. So that's why collaboration is so important for all of us. So without further ado, this is the Women's Health and ADHD workshop. And here's what we'll cover. And let me see here, and tell me whenever, if ever my screen doesn't share properly, but you're seeing what we'll cover today. Is the first one is who is this for and why, and then what's the problem. I'll also briefly touch on ADHD research by gender, and then I'll give you a cheat sheet that all of you guys can have, and a hormone ADHD checklist. Just to let you know, the slide will be available as soon as this workshop is done. So don't worry about it. You can screenshot, feel free to screenshot anytime and however you want to take notes. So who is this workshop for? So this workshop isn't just for women with ADHD, it's for anyone who lives, learns, or works with girls and women every day. So which means it's for everyone. That's why I'm so glad that two Bills are here, Bill Wildmer and Bill Hazelton. So we have two gentlemen here. I appreciate that because we can't do it all by ourselves. We need both genders here helping us. And I want to emphasize as well that understanding women's health and ADHD is not a niche. It's not a niche at all. It's necessary, but it remains one of the most overlooked conversations in the world. Again, another reason why I'm just so happy that all of you from different countries are here, because this is us starting the conversation again, and hopefully extend that to your own location after this workshop. That's my goal. And wanted to introduce myself real briefly. Hello, I am Catherine. I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm a lawyer. I'm a founder of ADHD Life Simplified. That's my mission-driven company. And that's powering my community, my school community, the thriving ADHD mompreneurs. So even though I have all those titles, my favorite title of all is being called the best mom ever by my two boys. I have two boys. I have a 14-year-old and a 6-year-old. So for my teenager to tell me that, it just brightens up my day every time. And so, and just to let you know, I am not a doctor, but I have spent over 2 decades of living, researching, and studying ADHD. I was diagnosed after college about 20 years ago. And since then, I've seen the research of ADHD, and I've become my personal guinea pig in terms of treatment, medication, and everything else that you can imagine. So I did this for myself and for other women and moms like you who want to thrive without shame, stigma, and judgment. And so today, just to clarify, this is an overview because it's a very complicated topic. So I'm not going to be overly inclusive, but just know that these are insights of my lived experience, my long-term therapy, and also the latest research about this. And this is, how I actually feel like living with ADHD throughout. So here's the problem. Let's talk about the problem. The problem is that ADHD research focused on boys and men. I think most of us know that. And this is something I want to ask. Do you guys have, do you ladies and gentlemen have kids? Most of you, I see that the nod, and the men as well, especially do you have a daughter? That's why this is going to be important as well, because most of us are adult women's here, of course, but our daughters as well. And if you're thinking of having kids, is very important. And Terry says she has 2 boys and 2 girls, all with ADHD and grandkids. There you go, Michelle Chapman. Thank you for telling me about grandkids as well. If you have grandkids, especially granddaughters, this is also very helpful. And just to emphasize that ADHD is hereditary, it's in our genes. The largest genetic studies have shown that there are ADHD markers in our genes. So it's scientifically proven now. And this is something I want to mention, that about 30 to 45% of children of parents with ADHD have ADHD as well. That's very important to know, because I remember when I was first diagnosed 20 years ago, one of the very important thing my psychiatrist then told me, and this was 20 years ago before the research was even done, he said, Catherine, when you have kids someday, just know that they might have ADHD. And that alone, I've taken that with me for over 20 years, because once I had my son 10 years later, I knew I had to be sensitive or understanding about that, and have that expectation. And now the statistics is almost 50%. If you have ADHD, if you're a parent with ADHD, almost 50% of the time your kid will have ADHD as well. So, and Terry, I know you're asking about if both parents have ADHD, what the stats is, and I'll get that. The stats right now is that if at least one parent has ADHD, then it's about 50%. So I could assume that it will be way higher if it's both parents as well. Now, also, here's the problem is that, and this is very helpful for all of us, also in for the men in our field, is that the current diagnostic criteria still is more appropriate for males than females. That's why doctors don't have appropriate tools to diagnose females properly. So even if you go to your doctor and tell them, I feel I have ADHD, please help me with my diagnosis, they likely don't have the right tools to diagnose you. In the US, we call it DSM, like our psychiatrists follow this manual that they call DSM. But in other countries, you have other criteria as well. Us here in the United States, even our DSM does not have proper criteria for women to be diagnosed. And a lot of countries as well, especially developing countries, are very behind with that, because I grew up in the Philippines. I was born and raised in the Philippines. So I was diagnosed here in the United States when I immigrated when I was 16, but I was diagnosed after college, so even years after. But in the Philippines, we don't even talk about mental health. At that time, I didn't even know what ADHD was, what depression was. I didn't even know the word mental health existed. That's how different it is. So as you can imagine, even now, that would be an issue culturally. So wherever you are, think about your doctors probably don't have the diagnostic criteria to have that checklist. And when I say diagnostic criteria, it's the checklist of, does she have ADHD? If she has A, B, C, and D. So that's one of the hard part for us women. Also, another hard part is that parents and teachers are still focused on the more obvious and more problematic male ADHD behaviors, especially hyperactivity. And this is something that I also would say I am a culprit of, because I have boys. So for me, I would just think about their hyperactivity. But I could see for girls, for people who have daughters, it's not always going to be about hyperactivity, but teachers are always looking for hyperactivity, but most girls don't have that hyperactivity. So as a parent, as a grandparent, I know we have grandparents here, and if you're a teacher as well in the educational, uh, field or preschool, anything like that with young kids, um, try to think of things that you can report to the parent that's not just focused on hyperactivity. Because one of the in the United States, when our psychiatrists would diagnose us, they ask parents and teachers for report, and if the report only says, oh, they're not hyper, usually the doctor says, oh, they don't have ADHD. So that also becomes problematic, not just with the medical field, but also with us as parents and family members, that it's our responsibility to be aware of our personal biases as well. And hyperactivity is usually missing in girls and women. So just FYI, and girls with untreated ADHD. This is important to keep in mind because ADHD is not just the challenge for girls, it's the byproduct of what happens if you're untreated. Girls that are untreated with ADHD, they're at risk for chronic low self-esteem. And this is something to think about for a lot of the late diagnosed women here. Think about if any of what I'm about to say applies to you as you were growing up. So if you were undiagnosed and untreated, you're at chronic low self-esteem. You might have underachievement, anxiety, depression, teen pregnancy because of the high risk, wanting to be always risky, and early smoking during middle school and high school. Something to keep in mind. And then for female adults, most of us are diagnosed in early adulthood. We're at risk of divorce, financial crisis, single parenting a child with ADHD, not completing college, underemployment, substance abuse, eating disorder, constant stress due to difficulty managing the demands of daily life, which then overflows into our own child's difficulties. And most of our children have ADHD. And I'm mentioning these not because I want to be like doom and gloom, but most of this too apply for all genders and all cultures and all ages. But just something to think about for yourself. If any of these apply to you, I just want you to know you're okay. You're going to be okay. And it's about us coming together and just learning more. Okay. And so that I added here a timeline about the ADHD research with gender, but it's more because I'm a proud geek. I'm a nerd, and so that's why this is here. So the slide will be available to all of you, so you can see it. I won't spend that much time on this. I'll just briefly tell you why we're here, because sometimes it's good to know why is there not enough research for ADHD girls and women. It's just briefly again. So there was this boys disorder era in 1940s, 1960s, and it's more about the behavior problem, like are you hyperactive and all that. So girls quite symptoms of daydreaming and inattentiveness and emotional sensitivity. That's me right there. Are overlooked. Were overlooked in the 1960s. And when I tell the dates here, I see that we have different age group. Think about what was happening when you were born and around the time that you were in school. So in the 1970s and 80s, that's when ADHD shift happened. That's actually in the 1980s was when ADD was the name for attention deficit disorder. So think about that. That's why we're late diagnosed, because when we were growing up, when we were in school, doctors didn't even know what that is. And then the ADHD, just FY, changed from ADD to ADHD in 1987 because now there's a focus on hyperactivity. Again, hyperactivity, which is not really that relevant for us women. We're not always, hyper. And then in the 1990s was when adult ADHD emerged. But it's not so much as for women. It's adult ADHD for men. So that's where the research is still. Girls and women research started, but the adult research was still in men. And then in 2000 was the recognition of underdiagnosed girls. And then in 2010, that's when hormones and lifespan awareness started, getting into the mindset of researchers. And just imagine 2010, it's 2025 right now. It's very recent in terms of research. Oops. And then right now in the present, that's where gender equity and awareness era, we're in this awareness era. So I'm glad that you guys are here with us, with each other to support us. So again, this is something that you can read for yourself. So let's go to the meat of this workshop that you all are waiting for. And ADHD in girls and women. One key thing, if you can, that you can get out of this workshop is this: it's powerfully influenced by hormonal challenges. ADHD and hormones for girls and women are extremely powerful correlation and relatedness. And I'll give you a cheat sheet. This is the aha moment I had this morning. I had a quiet time and I was like, oh, I think this is how to simplify the hundreds of research that I've been reading about like all these years. So just to simplify, so estrogen, if estrogen is low, your ADHD symptoms worsens. That's why it increases. That's it. And ADHD symptoms, we are impaired mood, attention, memory, sleep, like forgetfulness. Anyone having more forgetfulness, feeling overwhelmed, feeling scattered, feeling sleepy, and please feel free to stand up if you're feeling sleepy right now, or, you need to move around. Don't worry about it. I am hyper right now as well. So if your estrogen is low, your symptoms is worse. That's the simplest way of saying that. The reason is this: dopamine. You know how ADHD, dopamine is a chemical that's central to our ADHD brains. And so how we produce dopamine in our ADHD brain and how we maintain that helps our ADHD, our executive function. You've probably heard that with your doctors. You've heard that on social media and other research that you've read, other articles. So dopamine. But here's the thing: estrogen actually helps manage dopamine levels. That's why when estrogen is low, our ADHD symptoms go haywire, because our ADHD symptoms need help from our dopamine. So these three are all interrelated. And that's why that link is very important to know. And why this is important to know is I have to let you know that most doctors don't fully understand this. And I'm not a doctor. I have no medical degree whatsoever. I just read the scientific research in journals. So a doctor friend of mine told me that when they were in medical school, they learned about ADHD and for about an hour in their entire medical school. And then after that, that's it, and so even your psychiatrist might not have time to read all the research. So that's why advocacy for us is very important. And this includes for you, John, both Bills, the gentleman in our group right now. Advocacy is very important because doctors don't know all of the research there. And I could understand that, as a lawyer, I don't know all the laws. And so that's why when I go to my doctor, I bring with me a printout of the research that I had, reliable scientific research, and say, hey, this is what I think is happening. And I'm not making it up. I didn't just Google it on WebMD. Here's an actual research. And I don't have anything against WebMD. Just mention that. But saying that as an example that you can do yourself for yourself as well when you go next time to your doctor or talk to your psychiatrist. So all of that, that's your cheat sheet. And now what does that mean for you, for all of us? I I think for our treatment, it has to be cycle specific ADHD management. It's quite a handful, but it's just remember cycle specific. What that means is we have to optimize the standard ADHD treatment, medication, behavior therapies, while also addressing the stage specific hormonal challenges like PMS, sleep disruption, or menopausal symptoms. And in the simplest term, because simplify, simplify, simplify is my mantra, is that's why I have this cheat sheet. Our ADHD can be managed better if we address both our hormones, our estrogen, and our ADHD symptoms. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, most doctors, they say, oh, it's your hormones, especially we're going to talk about the different stages shortly. If you are in perimenopause, or even if you're in, your cycle, they'll tell you, oh, it's probably your hormones, so you're okay. So then this is the only thing that gets treated, but your ADHD symptoms are not getting treated. So they're still getting worse. Or if you've been diagnosed with ADHD, then they'll just say, oh, it's your ADHD. But then your hormones are not getting tracked or, not getting addressed as well. And these are two completely different fields. ADHD symptoms, you're going to go to your psychiatrist or psychologist. Your estrogen level, you're probably going to go to your gynecologist or OBGYN if you're pregnant and stuff. So those two doctors might not be talking to each other. I highly doubt it. And so it's hard to get managed unless we need a doctor that's both ADHD specialized and, gynecologist or OBGYN. So as you can see, it's so hard to figure that out. That's why it's our job to advocate for our girls, for our daughters, for our granddaughters, for ourselves as well. So maybe this is something that you can print out and bring with you, or just print on your wall to always remember, because even for me, I forget, am I addressing my estrogen or am I just doing my ADHD symptoms? And when I say ADHD treatments, managing that, I'll just give you a quick story in case this resonates with some of you. And I completely respect everyone whoever wants to take medication and whoever wants to not take medication. All of that, I respect everyone's choices. So for me, just personally, I've taken medication for over 20 years. And again, I'm my personal guinea pig, because in 20 years, medication for ADHD have changed. And so I've taken different medication depending on what's available in the market, and also depending on my insurance. Like out of the blue, it's almost like I just woke up and I hit a wall. Like, what is going on? And then I kept talking to my psychiatrist, my therapist, and they're trying to help me out. They're really great people. I've been with them for so long. And then one time I was talking to the nurse practitioner after I researched rejection sensitivity disorder, RSD. And I mentioned to her, you know what? I think I have rejection sensitivity disorder. And she looks at me like, oh, what is that? Like, like I was making it up. And then I realized, I think she thinks I'm making this up. And so I said, oh, RSD, rejection sensitivity disorder. And then I shared more with her. And then I saw at the corner of my eye that she's typing it on her computer, researching it as I'm talking to her, which is perfectly fine. That's what we all do. But it just shows you that example of how doctors and their nurses won't necessarily know what we're talking about in our symptoms. But after they researched it, after I put that awareness to my doctor, then now they know about it, so other patients can that complain about it will know about it. And my medication had to be adjusted. I around the time of my hormones where my estrogen is low, I have to take an extra stimulant, I have an extended release in the morning, and then I would take an extra stimulant around noon or that time. So that's how we started it. And I'm not a doctor, and this is not a recommendation for you on how to treat your medication. I'm just telling you how it was for me, so that you can think about that, like, what if I increase my medication and at a certain time of the day, and even the timing of when I take my extra stimulant, I have to figure that out, and it varies. So just wanted to let you know that that's what I mean about cycle specific ADHD management. Depending on when you are with your hormones and your cycle, you might have to change your medication, and it's okay. It's okay. There's no shame or stigma on that. You might have to change how your coping mechanism that used to work, now it's not working, and it's okay. Okay. So you're not inconsistent. Your chemistry is inconsistent. So we have to follow along that. Um, and then here's my hormone ADHD checklist for you. It's a simple science-backed checklist to help you align your hormones, energy, and ADHD brain at every stage of your womanhood. And I hope you keep in mind the girls and women in your lives as I'm talking about this. So first, puberty and early adulthood, none of us are there. So think about your girls, nieces, granddaughters. So what we're going to talk about, what's happening, what's the goal, what's the name, and what the plan of action is. So puberty and early adulthood, just know that estrogen rises, so your emotions intensify and ADHD symptoms may shift from hyperactivity to overthinking or anxiety, and your brain is adjusting to new chemical patterns. Remember when you were a teenager, how it was where you're like, what is going on with my brain? So think about that as well. And then the goal, if you have girls, is that early emotional awareness. And so establish foundational self-regulation skills. Just let them know that it's okay with what they're feeling. And then this is what a plan of action you can have. And Mike is saying his daughter is 6 and getting prepared for this. Oh no. That change. And so you can ask her, in an age 6 years old specific, what's your brain craving? Are you craving clarity? Are you craving calmness to be just by yourself? Or are you craving connection? And you can ask this yourself too, whether whatever gender you are, age group, and try journaling or using feeling wheels for younger girls. This trains emotional regulation early, and it's a lifelong skill. Emotional intelligence is very important for ADHDers as we get older. And then monthly cycle. So if your girls are now in puberty and having cycle, and this is all the women in their monthly cycle, just know that estrogen rises mid-cycle, so you'll feel sharper. And then it drops before your period, so you feel foggier or more emotional. This is one of the hardest thing I had to go through. As a lawyer, I would have hormonal changes, and it doesn't matter for my legal field. It was a high stress job, and I'm still a practicing lawyer. So, I still go to court and trials and all of that. And they don't care if my hormones going up and down, if I'm feeling foggy or emotional and sharper, but I have to be cognizant of that. I have to recognize that. And so my goal is to work with my natural rhythm. Just to let you know, one of the research actually shows that for us women in our monthly cycle, we only have 14 days of high productivity. Out of the 30 days, we are only productive in 14 days. When I read that, I thought that's huge. I need to know when those 14 days are in my cycle so I can maximize my productivity. And that's what I did. I started tracking my cycle for 2 months. This is what I'd recommend. Track your cycle for 2 months, and then you will find out when those 14 days are. So, and so that's why here's what you can do: cycle sync your to-do list. That's what I started to do. Is I scheduled brain heavy tasks like strategy, writing, launches. Do it mid-cycle when your estrogen is high. So once you start tracking these, per month, just get a calendar. In my community, I share a calendar where you can track this, and I can also share it here shortly. But just know that, oh, around this time is when I'm going to feel foggy. Maybe it's not a good idea to launch. So if you launch something, a product or community, and you felt like, oh, I didn't do well, or I didn't give my energy because my brain was foggy, maybe because you were trying to go against your hormones. And so it wasn't that you failed. It was just, it's really hard. And you were trying to push a brick wall when you can't. So just think about that. And so what I do is I save admin time, batching, and rest days for depending on my premenstrual cycle. So if your PMS hits hard, track symptoms for 2 months and talk to your doctor about medication or hormonal support options. So that's something to keep in mind, that your hormones and your ADHD work hand in hand, as I showed in the cheat sheet that I showed you earlier here. So the activities you do, if you can try to also do that, adjust to it, that'll be very helpful and insightful for you as entrepreneurs. And then pregnancy and postpartum. Anyone here just is pregnant or recently had a baby? Oh my gosh, when I had my son, my eldest, I was it was like I just finished a trial then, and I was about to go insane because and then breastfeeding afterwards and all that hormonal change. Postpartum means after you give birth. So your estrogen source actually during pregnancy, and ADHD may be easy for some people, and then it crashes after birth, and ADHD and emotions intensify. So your goal is to protect your mental bandwidth throughout that period, the trimester that you have, and systematize before your baby comes and simplify after. And just to let you know, no matter how many manuals you read or book, you're never going to be prepared for your baby. So that's why simplify after. So create checklists for meals, bills, and routines, and also ask for postpartum check-ins that are focused on moods and ADHD management. It's preventive care, not weakness. And just to let you know, because I knew that that I would have a hard time with postpartum, while I was pregnant, I was going to my therapist. I've been going to therapy once a week for over 20 years. I made sure I mentioned that in my TEDx talk because I wanted people to normalize therapy, that it's okay. I come from a culture where some of my relatives even say to me that only crazy people go to therapy. So, and I go to therapy once a week, and I tell them that. But saying that, I made sure I went to therapy when I was pregnant, but most especially after my pregnancy while I was breastfeeding. And I kid you not, my therapist and my psychiatrist kept on repeating to me over and over again the same thing they've been telling me for months. But I keep on forgetting, and I keep on my ADHD symptoms and my foggy brain. So it just has to be repetition, 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 when you're in that deep cycle of fogginess. And then perimenopause, okay, late 30s and 40s. So I'm guesstimating there's a bunch of us here. This is where I'm at. Just to let you know, your estrogen and progesterone are fluctuating unpredictably right now. And so it's amplifying our ADHD symptoms, emotional swings, and fatigue. So your goal is to stabilize your brain chemistry and energy. That's again where the hormonal therapy helps for some people, but not, again, I'm not a doctor, so talk to your doctor about that. And here's a perimenopause brain audit that you can do. ask yourself what feels harder than it used to. Most ADHD or perfectionism is a coping mechanism. I'm a recovering perfectionist. Anyone here a recovering perfectionist? There you go. I see a lot of hands there. Then one day you wake up and you go, why does this feel harder than it used to? Because of this. So for each item, mark, is this a medical help that I need? Check for hormones, HRT meds, or is this a system simplification? Do I need to simplify my routines or delegate or rest? Sleep is the number one free tool for us for our executive function. It's hard to sleep for ADHDers, but again, repetition of reminding to sleep is very important. And then revisit every 3 months to track your changes. But this question is very important. If all of a sudden things are harder for you right now, you're not failing, you're changing. And we all change in our seasons of life. That's what's happening. And it's okay. So that's for many perimenopause. And then for menopause and postmenopause, if this is one, if it's under research, the girls and women, this is getting even way little research. And so just keep in mind that what's happening is your estrogen remains low. And you know what's interesting is your symptoms, your ADHD symptoms might actually start to be stable because you're not going through the fluctuations like perimenopause. Right now I'm in the perimenopause stage, so I'm like, I feel like a roller coaster every day. But supposedly, according to surveys and the little research about it, is the menopause and postmenopause, when your estrogen starts stabilizing, it actually helps with your ADHD symptoms to be less erratic. But there's still those brain fog, insomnia, or anxiety can linger. So just keep that in mind. And so your goal is long-term brain and body health. So this is some way to prioritize your restorative habits. Is that sleep is now your strategy. Sleep is my strategy now too, even though sleep is hard. I actually had a sleep and energy challenge in my community, and I am upfront that sometimes I just can't sleep. There's no shame or stigma or judgment for myself. I try to give myself compassion. Sometimes I just can't. And so I just have to know that the next day my energy would be low and I can't push myself. So maybe tomorrow I'll get to sleep better and then I'll be more productive. So you can set a bedtime alarm. We set a morning alarm, set a bedtime alarm so we remember, because that was my problem. I was like, I'm like, what? It's 1 o'clock already? I thought it was just 11. So with our time blindness, set a bedtime alarm, not just a wake up alarm. And then discuss with your provider if you need hormone therapy or adjustment of ADHD medication or supplements like magnesium or omega-3 could help. So supplements is also helpful. I see some comments about supplements as well. And then keep moving. Physical activity protects dopamine, mood, and cognition. One of the videos I posted in my social media in my community one time is that I'm here right now, I'm on my desk. It's a standing desk and that can be raised up and down. And in the morning, it's a standing desk and I have a walking pad or a treadmill underneath my desk that is easy to pull in and out of my desk. And so as I'm, I could be Zooming with you, or I could be on a call or checking on my community, and I'm on my treadmill while I'm doing that. And I actually forget sometimes that I'm on my treadmill, and my treadmill gives up on me because it automatically shuts off after 2 hours, which means I've been walking for 2 hours. I didn't even know it. And so I'm like, yay. So the hardest part is getting on that treadmill. That's why setting up that system of having my shoes literally my shoes are here. So I could just slip in my feet. I don't have to get distracted and look for my shoes or have an excuse like, well, my shoes are far, so I can't do this. It's right there next to me, right? And then also finding a treadmill that's quiet and easy to move in and out, and having a desk. By having all of that set up as entrepreneurs, as an entrepreneur, I feel that I can, keep moving and help with my hormones as well. And then and this is the bonus: entrepreneur integration. Your goal, your hormones shift, so your business systems should too. So let me repeat that. Your hormone shift, your business systems should also. So one way to do that is design rhythm, not rigidity. You could have high energy week. You put there, you're going to do creative work and visibility. Maybe that's the time when you're going to record your social media contents. That's when you're going to put that in your calendar. But then your low energy week, you just do admin. Like, I don't want to record. Maybe that's when I write my script, where I don't have to, do much energy. Or that's when I do reflection, rest. Nap time is key, guys. Nap time is key. Just to let you know, there was a research about that if you take a nap about 90 minutes in the middle of the day, you will increase your how you remember things that you're trying to learn. So if you're trying to have a hard time remembering, nap might be helpful. And then here's a helpful too: build 20% buffer time each week for hormonal or ADHD fluctuations. I'm actually about to record a video because members of my community were asking, oh, how do you set up your Google Calendar? And my Google Calendar is not filled with like packed. It actually has a buffer of like, okay, of nothing scheduled in a certain time, because I have to take into account that my hormone and ADHD symptoms might change. And so I need to have that buffer. So I don't schedule any calls, any meetings. So just keep that in mind, that it's okay to have that. And then track one word about your brain daily. Is it clear? Is it foggy? Are you energized? Are you quiet? That's one way when you do your tracker. And this is, you are not inconsistent. Your chemistry is something to keep in mind. So the more you understand your hormonal rhythms, the more confidently and compassionately you can lead your life, family, and business. And I want to emphasize not just confidently, but compassionately. My vision is to reframe the global discussion toward compassion, starting with mental health, starting with ADHD. That's my global vision. And compassion is very important, because it's not just compassion for others, it's compassion for ourselves. That's why I keep on saying this workshop, it's okay. Because this is something I tell myself when I'm having a hard time. It's okay. Catherine, you're going to be okay. Terry, you're going to be okay. Heather, you're going to be okay. Sandra, you're going to be okay. Dean, you're going to be okay. And Katrina, you're going to be okay. That kind of compassion that we repeat to ourselves is very important. So, oh, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm going to cry because I'm really passionate about this. So that's the quick one. So any questions? I see some questions in the community. So Bill, if you can help me out with questions and identifying anything that I might have overlooked. But if anyone wants to hop in and ask their questions as well, that'll help me. Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Catherine, for sharing all of that. That was awesome to see and awesome to watch.
Thank you.
So, real quick before questions, can we just get a 1 in the chat if somebody found that useful? See those? Let's see those ones.
Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Sure.
And if you can put in the chat, what would be like one aha moment that you got, if you got anything that's an aha moment for you with this. Um, as I was researching this for like 20 years, and even, just this morning, I was like, oh, I have an aha moment all the time. Sleep during the day to help with memory. Yes, yes. Um, any way to boost estrogen without medication. Um, that one is still being researched unless someone has an experience. Hormone therapy has been um, what gynecologists have been recommending. How large the influence of estrogen is, according to Dr. Marin, a lot. A very, very the effect of estrogen for us is huge, but also progesterone, it affects us. But I try to keep this presentation as simple as possible. That's why I only focused on progesterone. I've actually also heard and found limited research that even testosterone might help with some perimenopause and menopause. Again, all of these are so new. That's why most of the studies are based on lived experience, and also um, surveys of women around our age. And let me see here.
I had another question, if you don't mind, real
Oh,
quick.
sure.
So one of our community members couldn't make it, but she wanted me to ask you. Actually, I might need to find it first so you can. I'll get back to that. Thought it
No
I
was
have
right
it
here.
ready. I have it
Outstanding.
ready, Bill. I can paste it in the, I can paste it
Oh,
in the
perfect.
chat. Yeah.
Thank you, Rima. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Awesome. And I'll stop screen sharing for a sec because I want to pull up something here as well. So okay. Oh, I see the question from that Rima posted. Zero estrogen and heavy impact on my ADHD because of my career, my cancer medication and ovary suppression injections. My breast cancer was ER positive, and I feel like all my symptoms are way worse in the last year due to this. Anything I can do to mitigate or relieve symptoms? Wow, that's heavy. That's a lot for your community member who's going through that. Just the emotional roller coaster of having breast cancer. So I feel for you if you're watching this replay. And right now, because you're probably going through your oncologist, your cancer doctor, and mention to your cancer doctor about your ADHD. That's what I would highly recommend. Um, some doctors don't feel like the need to ask that. And so we might overlook that ourselves. So just advocacy right now, self-advocacy is very important. Because I'm not a doctor, I can't really say how to mitigate that, but the way you could help yourself is that self-advocacy of telling your oncologist and your gynecologist and your psychiatrist of what you're experiencing, and be okay, open to it. And it's okay not to be okay. I say this to my clients. As a lawyer, I handle personal injury, and so I tell them, tell your doctor if you're having pain. And the same with us when we're having pain. Culturally, it's hard because Filipinos tend to not say anything if they're in pain. So I have to break that cultural cycle. So if you're in that culture where pain is thought of as a weakness, tell them that you're in pain. Just for everyone here as well, 25% of women, according to studies, live in poor health because doctors treat our pain very differently. So pain can be not just physical pain, but mental pain, emotional pain, all of that. Doctors treat our pain differently. So if you say something really hurts, the doctors usually think we're emotional. But if a male says it really hurts, then they'll be like, oh, okay, what can we do? And this gender gap just exists. Again, it's more of knowledge and information that's there. and that's where self-advocacy really helps. I hope that helps. And then how do we do the tracker, please? Okay. So while I'm pulling that up, Bill, if you, I'll pull it up. If Bill could fill the gap while I'm trying to find that here.
Sure.
Hold on.
Yeah. Oh.
Let's see. Okay.
Um,
I'll actually
oh,
pull up a sample for you guys.
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tracker.
Do like, oh, Sandra raised her hand. We do have other questions in the chat
Sure.
a little while back.
Okay.
Earlier, Rima, you were asking something about the cycle and PCOS. Did you want to throw that out there?
Yeah, I was just asking about, you said to cycle sync and manage the calendar, but my cycle's fairly irregular because of the PCOS. Would you have any recommendation for people like me?
Yeah, that's tough too because PCOS is a hormonal condition for women, and it's, I don't know how it presents to you. I would, could you tell the rest of us what PCOS is in your own terms, Rima? Do you mind?
That's a good question because it like different women, it presents and it manifests in a different way. For me, it's
Yeah.
basically you have, well, women, we have like cyst on our ovaries and reflects with the insulin resistance, and your hormones are just wacky throughout the months. For me, that affects a lot with my ADHD or just depression and anxiety because I don't know anytime it hits me, and then I'm like, what happened? And then a week later, oh, that period, like, oh, surprise, surprise, that's what was happening a week before. So
Yes.
for me, it usually just looks very random throughout the month.
Yeah, and actually there seems to be a correlation of PCOS, uh, that ADHD women have a higher tendency to have PCOS according to the
Mhm.
limited research. Of course, there's still a need for more research about that, but that's why it becomes a double whammy for women, because we have um, the hormonal shifts and then the ADHD symptoms. And for you, it becomes a triple whammy because now you're talking about PCOS as well. And so it's for that, just know that your ADHD affects your PCOS and vice versa. And so when you talk to your gynecologist in your next checkup, mention both. And
Yeah,
again, just be aware that your gynecologist probably won't know much about ADHD. And so you're going to have to go to tag team. You're like the mediator for both of your doctors. I always find myself having to go back and forth them until I figure out what the answer is.
sure.
But just know that you're right with your self-realization that PCOS is part of what you're experiencing with your ADHD as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to show you something here. I will screen share in right now. Hold on. Let me make this bigger. Oopsie. Okay, let me screen share this. Okay. Let me know if you can see it. Do you see the women's health and ADHD graph? Okay, and I am going to make it bigger here. So this was a graph I did to simplify things for myself. So this is menstrual cycle equals hormonal changes equals directly impacts ADHD symptoms. So that's why your ADHD medication might not work so well during certain times of your menstrual cycle. So talk to your doctor. So the recommendation is monitor 2 cycles, which means 2 months. monitor your mood, your ADHD symptoms, and if you're taking medication, if your medication is effective. And I'll share this with everyone. Oh, God.
I was just going to ask, how would you know if your medication is effective or not? Like, what does that mean, medication effectiveness? Can you clarify?
Yes, thank you for asking that. What that means is how your medication, one, how your medication used to feel doesn't feel the same way anymore. For example, when I take my medication, my stimulant, the brain fog lifts. And then somewhere in the middle of the day, it's literally, you know how when you see fog just roll in, that's how it feels to me in my brain. Like, whoa, where did that fog come from? And I can't see now. I'm having a hard time pulling up, where was that document that I was supposed to work on, or what's my priority again today? What was I supposed to do? And I'm like, but I'm taking an extended release medication that's supposed to last longer. But now after like 3 hours, it's gone. It feels like it's gone. And so, but it's mostly because I suspect my hormones and my ADHD medication are at war in my brain. That's how I visualize it. They're like at war. And so I have to take another dose of my stimulant medication so that I can win the war, so that I can be a good mom, so I can, I can be emotionally regulated when I pick up my kids. Right? How many moms have picked up their kids and they're emotionally dysregulated, and their kids are emotionally dysregulated, and then you're fighting fire with fire? That's when ADHD medication effectiveness change. That's when you know, like, what's happening. It's not lasting as it's supposed to be. Of course, it depends what your medication is. I'm talking about mine taking an extended release in the morning, which means it has to last at least 6 to 8 hours, but it's not lasting that long because when my hormones are really bad. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. And then here, it's basically the same as what I did with my presentation, that low estrogen worsens your mood, your executive function, and then rapid decline in estrogen, it becomes 2 times worse. So if your symptoms is like 2 times worse, like you feel you can't even get out of your bed, that's probably what's happening right there. And then this is when I was saying, I know someone commented the 14-day productivity. This is where the productivity of 14 days, day 6 to 12, that's 7 days. And day 16 to 22, that's another 7 days. That's 14 days total to leverage and maximize your productivity. For the men in our workshop right now, this might not make sense, but for women with our cycle, the start of our period is day 1. And so in a 28-day cycle, which is the typical cycle, if you have a typical cycle, just know that day 6 and 12 is likely when you're highly productive. And then day 16 and 22, which is what this graph is. This green one is your estrogen going up and down. So this is the graphic that to think about. It's like a 2 camel back. That's why we have 14 days. So in your day 6 and day 12, according to research, that's when your estrogen is going up. So your ADHD symptom is getting better. And then day 12 hits and you start going down again. And you're like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of my launch right now. I'm having a hard time, and that's when you need medication or coping mechanism, support from your spouse, your friends, a little bit more understanding and love from others. And then after day 16, it starts, you're like, whoa, it's getting better. Okay, I'm not that emotional anymore. My RSD seems to be under control. And then it goes down again. And then you start all over again next month. So this is for the rest of our lives. Every month, this is what our challenge is. And again, it's about knowing. At first, it felt like, holy crap, that sucks. And it does suck every month. But this is how we were built, and there's a way to manage it. And I'm a thriving ADHD mompreneur because I'm trying to manage it. There are good days and bad days, because as you can see, I have that too, like you. It's more of knowing what to do what coping mechanism can I have when I'm on my down, and what coping mechanism can I have when I'm on my up. That's how we can thrive with our ADHD, regardless of our gender. And then this is the cycle sync. This is February, because this is how this might be better. So this is how I tracked my cycle in February, because it was 28 days. And if you wanted specific, so for example, day 1, just to give you an idea, day 1, if your cycle starts, just know your low estrogen period. And so what do? I take higher ADHD meds, I focus on gentle task, and then I practice compassion. So the color right here, you see how it's like peach, and then this is the peach area right here. I matched it to that when I was tracking my hormones. And I'll share this with everyone as well. I'll give the link. So this is the pink, the first part. So this part right here, what I did was, okay, I know I'm going to be low energy on day 1 to 5. So I'm going to have to take higher meds. I have to prioritize rest. I have to do light admin work. Is it visible for everyone? Just want to make sure that it's not too small. There you go. So that's, oops, hold on. So that's what I did. And then, okay, still doing that. Day 3, maybe I'll do home organization, just tiny bit, or self-care. This is the time I focus on self-care. And then maybe on day 4 is when I review my weekly plans, or I do gentle exercise. I probably won't do my treadmill. And then the last day of higher dose on day 5. And then I start doing simple planning. Okay, what's my next week goal? And then day 6. Let's say day 6 hits. So I'm right here in the yellow phase. From here, whoop, right there. So this is what I'm going to do. Oh, my energy is rising. Okay, now I'm going back to my regular medication dosage, and then I'm going to tackle a bigger project. Oh, today is the day of my launch. Today is the day of my workshop. And then I start scheduling meetings. In these days that are peach right here, I cancel meetings if I need to. Another tool I'd like to share is that I stopped saying sorry. As ADHDers, we say sorry all the time. And I see Heather going like, yes, and Dr. Agustin saying that too. So I used to say sorry for even things that I shouldn't be sorry for. So what I started doing is replacing sorry with thank you. So when I'm late for a meeting, instead of, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late again, I say, thank you, Bill, for waiting patiently. Thank you for being patient. And that empowers the other person to stop thinking about what I did wrong, not because it's an excuse, but more of really thanking them because they waited for me. And that took a lot. So I want them to know I appreciate them for that. So just a tip. So that's why I don't schedule meetings here. And if I did schedule a meeting and I have to cancel, then I tell them, hey, I'm not feeling well right now. I need a mental health break. And they're okay. And I tell them, thank you for being understanding. Thank you for your compassion. I don't say, sorry, I have to cancel the meeting.
Can I jump in?
Mm-hmm.
On that? Yeah. So one of the things that Rex and I talk about in Focus Founders is having meetings scheduled with yourself and saying, "Hey, I can't do that at that time. I have a meeting." And even though it's like a meeting with me for lunch or it's a meeting with myself to go to the gym, like that's still a meeting in my calendar that's
Yes.
scheduled, it's important. And you don't have to tell them it's a meeting with myself or whatever, but you could say, "Hey, I can't do it at that time. I have a meeting." And it's
Yes.
valid.
I think that's beautiful because, yeah, we don't put ourselves in our calendar, which you should do. And that's a meeting for yourself. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And then on day 7, I do the major presentation, strategic planning, complex tasks, or, so as you can see, that's how it is. That's what I meant when I'm aligning my rhythm with my cycle, with my cycle, with my medication, with my mood. One thing too is I'm very emotional. I'm a highly sensitive person. Many ADHDers are highly sensitive, and it's a research. It's not like a term that we just made up to say that we're emotional, but 20% of the population is highly sensitive, and a lot of those are ADHDers. So I'm highly sensitive. I pick up on other people's energy. That's why I love seeing your faces there. I pick up on your energy right now, your smiles. And so I also factor in my emotional here. So is this helpful? Or I didn't want to put it in my presentation initial because I was like, oh, I don't know if it's too much detail or not, but if this is helpful, I'm more than happy to share. Oh, thanks, Selena, for that thumbs up. And then let's see. What other question that we probably missed? Awareness, having strategy. And I love your comments in the chat, by the way. I am reading them and I will read them more thoroughly. If there's a question that I did not get to answer right now, I will go back and try to figure out if I can DM you in Bill's school. And if you're in the school community, I'll try to DM you. But anytime you guys have any questions, DM me in school and I answer all of them. I feed off everyone's energy, as I mentioned. And so I'm an open book. You can ask me anything, my medication, whether I'm having a bad day or not, whether I'm in the closet, my dark closet, trying to have a quiet time. I'll let you know. That's it for me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine. Catherine runs an amazing community called Thriving ADHD Mompreneurs. So feel free to join her community there. And yeah, just super grateful for you showing up and helping us spread awareness about ADHD during ADHD Awareness Month and for sharing all of your knowledge and your tools and templates and things like that. So yeah, thank you, Catherine. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. And thank you for showing up, everyone, because that really helps me realize how many people are interested in it. And the more people are interested, the more we can spread the message, because it's always about the message. I always say it's not about me, it's about the message, and to help spread this globally. And for those, there's so many people in different countries right now. Please share this with your family and friends, with your daughters, granddaughters, even just a tiny phrase to tell them. You never know if they need it right now because they're struggling, and you don't know who's struggling. That's the thing. There's a lot of people who are quiet. So and I appreciate you all. And again, like what Bill said, collaborating with ADHD focused founders and Thriving ADHD Mompreneurs, my school community, we're here for you. Join us. Join both. You can do that because we all share stuff.
I also want to give a shout out to Mike Lawson, who runs,
Oh, yes.
I don't know if
Mike.
it's still called ADHD Dizzle or if it's the ADHD Reset. I forget what the official name of his community is now. But yeah, definitely join him as well. He's a lot of people from here, I think, are from him, and he shared it and was a part of the collaboration process. So I wanted to give him a shout out.
Yes, thank you, Mike, for also posting it in your community. He's always supportive. I appreciate you for that. And also, I put my email in the chat right now. It's Catherine with a K at ADHDLifeSimplified.com. If you have questions, you can also email me. If DM is not your thing, email is there too. And ADHD Life Simplified is my mission driven company. That's the overall company that I have that is really trying to push for the vision I told you about compassion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks everybody for being here.
Yes, bye.
See y'all soon.